Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. I know it's been a while, just life got busy, but back at it today with the Bronco. So got a really exciting video for you guys today. IAG sent me some pre-production mud flaps to test out for the Bronco. So full disclosure, they did send me these mud flaps to test out, and they do have to approve of this video before it gets publicly published on YouTube. So hopefully you guys are seeing this video. What we're going to go through today is I'm going to do a quick unboxing of the new mud flaps. I'm going to go through the video of removing my current mud flaps and show why this is particularly exciting for me, because I've had to do some modifications to my existing mud flaps in order to work with the new wheel tire combo. So hopefully these new ones from IAG will fit perfectly with my new wheels and tires without having to do any modifications. And I'll give my my thoughts on these new mud flaps and whether or not you should consider them if you're going to be putting mud flaps on your Ford Bronco. So without further ado, we'll move on to the unboxing. Again, as usual, if you like the videos I'm putting out there, please like and subscribe. I can really use the help with the YouTube algorithm and getting these videos out to other Bronco owners like yourselves. All right, thank you so much. Let's get to it. So let's do a quick unboxing here. As usual, IAG is really good with their instructions, with pictures, multiple steps here, but seems very clear and concise as to how to install these. Each one of these, again, your packaging may differ once this becomes production, but right now it's still initial prototypes. So it's got IAG and a topo design on the actual mud flap. Yep. And this kit is for both the front and the rear mud flaps. All right, and then all of the mounting brackets are really in there really well and protected. They're in a I guess a custom cut foam here to make sure that they don't rattle around, but I'm really impressed with the packaging here, even for a prototype version, to ensure that the powder coating on the brackets are pristine when it arrives. So really impressed with the packaging and all the different hardware, bag of hardware as usual. So yeah, this is really awesome. Wasn't expecting it like this. So what we'll do now is I'll remove the existing mud flaps, show you through that process, and then we'll get these back on and see what our thoughts are. So let's remove the current mud flaps, and what really attracted me to these is that they have thumb screws on them. So when I go off-roading, all I gotta do is unscrew the 3 thumb screws and the mud flap comes off, and that way when I'm off-roading, going over some rocks, I don't crack them when they come sliding off of a rock. So that was kind of what attracted me to these. The only problem is when I went from 33s to 35s in the methods, there was a lot of rubbing on the mud flap. So I had to modify it by cutting out this entire section here, and that helped a lot, but still at full wheel lock, going to the passenger side, there's still some rubbing going on somewhere on this mud flap. So we'll install the IAGs and see if that's still the case. Now for these, you have to remove the 2 15mm bolts on the crash bars, because it has this metal bracket here that the mud flaps connect to, and then there's also a bracket up here we'll need to replace. So let's get to it. I'm probably going to speed up this part of the video because these 2 bolts are not the easiest to get out. They're torqued in there pretty good, and there's very little clearance back there. So I may just fade to black and then come back and they'll be removed. All right. So here's the bracket from the old mud flap that connects to the 2 bolts on the rear crash bar. Now that we have that bracket off from the old mud flap, now we need to get this fender off. So it's just a matter of turning all the little keys underneath towards the front. And once you have all those turned, they should just pull right off. There you go. And that gives us access to the mounting bracket from the other mounting bracket from the old mud flap. So we will remove that right there. You can probably see it closer. Yeah, we'll remove that bracket, and then we can begin the installation of the IAG mud flap. So this is 2 Phillips head screws on here. So we'll take these off, and then that gives us access to behind this. Probably take off a couple more of these push pins, and that gives us access to start putting in the brackets and everything necessary for the new mud flap. So let's get these off. All right, now that we got those off, I'm gonna make my life easier and slide out this rear crash bar just to be able to get to the fender liner better, and remove these two push pins here as well, and that will get me access to behind this fender liner. So let me get my trim removal tool to get these push pins. So these push pins are the type that has a little screw, so you gotta lightly, gently unscrew without applying any forward pressure. Hopefully loosen enough to get the pry tool behind it. Now that I got these plastic clips off from the old mud flaps, had these retaining clips here on the body that allowed it to screw in the brackets, and so slide these off because they're no longer needed with the new IAG kit. All right, and now let me get the necessary hardware to install the bracket onto this one. New mounting hardware from IAG. So first up is going to be this little bracket here that goes from behind and through. And there's a spot here you can put your finger so it doesn't back out. You can push that on there like that. And then you have this mounting bracket here, which is going to slide right on. Oops. As so. And then they provide washers and 10mm nuts. So let's get those on. All right, so let me tighten that up, and we'll get the next part to be installed. All right, so now I got my 10mm, and let's tighten this up. Sure it's okay, so let's get this tightened. And again, it doesn't have to be super tight, just snug. This is only going into that little bracket I showed earlier, so don't want to over tighten it and mangle it in any way. All right, so now that we have that in there, we can get these push pins back installed. So we got one right here that we removed. And I'm going to leave the one in the wheel well here out because IAG sent replacement push pins that don't have the screw to unthread them. It should be easier to remove because that's a mounting location for the mud flap. Before I get there though, I want to reinstall my rear crash bar that I took off. Again, the reason why I take this off is because of my previous mud flap. If this is your initial installation and you didn't have the ones I had previously, you probably don't need to remove your crash bars. So I'm going to reinstall the crash bar. I'm not going to film that because it's just screwing his 2 bolts back in. And then once I've done that, I will bring you guys back in and show you the final installation steps for the IAG mud flap. As you see, we have the bracket mounted. I have the crash bar reinstalled, and now it's just a matter of installing the mud flap. So here we got the passenger side mud flap, and through a happy coincidence, I found out that the screw threading for this bracket can take the same threaded thumb screw from the old mud flap. So what IAG includes are screws that are Allen bolts. But you know, I would definitely prefer to use a threaded thumb screw so that it makes my life easier to take these off before heading on the trail. So I'm going to reuse them and screw them in, and based off the instructions, it says to just screw it in lightly, so then I can then adjust it to the fender once we install the fender back on, so that it's even with the fender, because with the Bronco you have the Sasquatch package, which has a wider fender, and then you have, like mine, which I have the regular Badlands, has a narrow fender, so this can line up with either one, based off of the format that you have. And then on the inside here, this is supposed to line up with the push pin that you removed earlier to access the back here. So I'm going to install the fender, align it, tighten up these thumb nuts, and then I guess last step will be to install the replacement push pin they give you, which is this. And for the one they give you in the kit, it doesn't have the screw that you kind of, all Ford Bronco owners know, the bane of our existence is to try to get this inner plastic piece to unscrew without turning the whole push pin and then pulling it out. So this one has just a regular push style, and there's a little crevice here where you could get like a flathead screwdriver in there or your trim removal tool to pop this out. So I'm assuming this is gonna be a lot easier to deal with than those screw-in push pins. So I am going to move the camera out a bit so you can kind of see it with the fender installed. So let's get the fender reinstalled here. Again, these just push right in, line up. And then lock in all the keys by rotating them to face the rear of the vehicle. And it's a good thing I did use these thumb screws, so I have to remove this fender to get to the last latch here. So those are all locked in. And now I can get this fender on here and screw it in. So let me bring the camera closer. All right, so line up. All right, so you're supposed to line it up so that this is like even with your fender flare, which for me, having, like I said, a non Badlands, a non Sasquatch, means that this is pretty much good right there. Let me tighten them down. Here we go. And now for the inner flap here, use the supplied push pin. And there you go. So my initial take on this is it definitely has a lot more clearance than my old one. This definitely will not have any issues clearing the 35s on the method wheels. It's got a good cutout here already for the crash bar. Yeah, I mean, the only thing on the kit I would say is, would like them to include thumb screws instead of Allen screws, so this way I don't need to have an Allen wrench with me to remove these two when I go off-roading. And I'll see, the push pin in here. I'm assuming once I get these two off, it'll be a lot easier to access this push pin with the trim tool and pop that off so I can get this whole mud flap off when I go off-roading. I'm not gonna torture you and show you the same process for the driver's side. We're gonna shift focus now to the rear and doing the rear mud flaps on the passenger side. And then I'll give my overall impressions at the end. So I finished installing both the front mud flaps from IAG on the Bronco, and I'll show you the final installation real quick. Made the executive decision not to install the rear mud flaps. Nothing against the IAG mud flaps, but looking through the instructions and starting to walk through what would be involved with installing them, there doesn't appear to be an easy way to remove them in the field for when I go off-roading. And since I do off-roading a couple times a month, I don't want to risk damaging the mud flaps, breaking them, or damaging any of the mounting points where they kind of connect to the bumper of the body. So for me, since I use this Bronco to go off-roading, the rear mud flaps don't really fit in with my use case. That's not to say that if you use your Bronco predominantly for everyday driving and keeping it predominantly on the pavement, that they won't work for you. Very simple installation, very straightforward, great instructions provided by IAG. So it's just for my use case, it did not make sense to install the rear bumpers. Overall, very impressed with the kit. They packaging is phenomenal. There's no way you're going to get any parts, any of the mounting parts which are powder coated, or there's no way it's going to come scratched up. They are in styrofoam. They're custom cut. Very, very impressed. Again, this is for the prototype. Don't know if they're going to have the same packaging for the retail version, but very impressed. Definitely like the front mud flaps. They're definitely a lot better than my previous mud flaps I had on the Bronco. A lot more clearance for my 35s and the Method wheels, which have a different offset than the standard Bronco wheels. So let me show you what it looks like in each of the wheel wells from the fronts. Again, if you like the content I'm putting out there, please like and subscribe to help me grow my channel. So let's go take a look. And here we have the passenger side that I showed on camera. As you can see, there is plenty of clearance with the 35s and the 703 Method 703s, especially with the big wheel crash bar there. So it's about half the size crash bar as what comes standard with the Bronco, but plenty of clearance there with the 35s. And then you can see I have the 2 thumb screws for easy removal when I go off-roading. And then there is the push pin right here. But I'm thinking that's probably going to be easier than the stock Bronco push pins to remove, since it doesn't have, you don't have to kind of screw it out with a Phillips screwdriver. And then let's take a look at the driver's side as we walk on over. Not as much lighting over here, but again, with the 2 thumb screws, the push pin, and plenty of clearance. Is very much up against the back fender liner there to provide maximum amount of clearance for these 35s. So overall, really impressed, and definitely recommend for anyone looking for mud flaps at a reasonable price once these become available. If you're going to do off-roading, then hopefully IAG would take my feedback and provide an option to get these sets of thumb screws or include them in the pack for the fronts. Rears, I'm not sure what they can do to make those easier to remove for off-roading. But if you're just riding on the pavement, daily driver, this doesn't apply to you. I would highly recommend the kit as is, using the parts that it comes with, since you're pretty much going to put these mud flaps on and just leave them on. All right, thanks again. Thanks for watching my content. And again, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next video. Thank you.